That's it, huh? That's how it ends. Okay, okay. Uh, got a little thing here. Let's go ahead and put on some music. Boy. Boy. I like the movie. I like the movie. It it wasn't what I expected, in a good way, right? Uh, but I liked it. I'm just gonna go over my notes, real quick, and let's see, kind of. What we have. So we have the narrator. It starts off with the narrator, right? You have the narrator, Waldo Lydecker. He's talking about Laura. He was writing her story, and okay, so here's right now I'm making this connection right now. So he says that he was writing his story or her story, right? He knew her best, and the thing is like he basically, like, fast forwarding past that initial interview that the detective McPherson has with Lydecker. They went on to talk about they went on to talk about, what was it, how he met her in a restaurant, and it was like he's ambitious, she's ambitious, so he basically started grooming her. And I talked about this a little bit after he finished telling his story. So he basically was grooming her, right? So he knew Laura best, or he thought that he knew Laura best because he showed her everything, right? He showed her high society. He showed her how to live wealthily. All the people, like he said infamous and famous people. Like he taught her the ins and out of being, part of the elite in Manhattan, in New York. He himself obviously regards himself highly as being, he's a newspaper column writer. He writes about murders, and he has apparently a radio show. So he has a radio show. He's famous for that stuff. His word is taken into high regard. So he's definitely, initially he comes off as this kind of like witty, like, whatever, this. Not a really good explanation, He's very witty towards Carpenter. They have a lot of back and forth, and Waldo's always having the upper hand on that back and forth. But as the story progresses, we start to see, Waldo as overprotective, right? Overprotective of Laura, and I get a sense that Waldo felt this sense of, like, in the end, he was saying, "You're the best part of me," right? Because he's a pretty shitty person. But you get the sense that for Waldo, he was protecting Laura, which was it seemed like a pet project, like he was proud of it, right? So he was proud of making Laura into this high society, wonderful woman. She rose in her company, in her advertising company. So I think what I think really happened, and this is just speculation, what I think really happened is that, yes, because I wrote down towards the end, I wrote down, where is it? I thought I wrote it down. Oh, I wrote down that Waldo loved Laura in some way, but in what way, right? So I think the way that he loved her was he made her, he believes that he made her into who she is, right? So he taught, as I mentioned before, taught her how to dress, the galas, the people, famous, infamous, all that stuff, everything that puts her in high society. He created that, right? I think he believes that he created her, and that sure, she did do some things on her own, like rising in her company, but the rest was all his doing, right? So he didn't like her dating or seeing other men that he didn't see fit for her, not because I think he was being protective of her, but because he was being protective of himself. So you have Waldo, who, as I mentioned before, values himself in high regard. He's like the best, the best of the best, high society. You saw his apartment; it looked gaudy as hell, big ass marble bathtub. This dude who's like, I'm the best, I'm elite, right? So, what's gonna happen to his image when people see the woman that he groomed to be similar to him, where he transposed much of his image, dating men that he believed to be insufficient or not good enough? So to him, if people see her with men that aren't good enough, in his eyes, that's going to taint his image. So I get a feeling that it was the love that he had, the love that Waldo had for Laura was a narcissistic love that he had for himself. It's not that he loved Laura for being Laura, right? He was seeing a younger version of himself. He was seeing this version that it was a feminine version of himself, right? So he became, I don't think it was that he was, maybe he was a little bit jealous. Maybe there was a little bit that did make him jealous, but I think a big part of it was like, she is ruining the image that I cultivated for her. And if people see that the image that I cultivated can be mixed with this lower class of individual, then people will assume that I can also be mixed with that lower class of individual. So I cannot allow that, right? And killing Diane was just like, oh well, right? He just shot her in the face and hit the shotgun and was like, well, whatever. Why would he care, right? Like, why would he care about killing Diane when she's like low society, right? She's just a model that was just recently hired, and it's just a blemish for him. So that's what I think, that's the kind of love that I think he had, right? He had a narcissistic love for Laura because he loved his image, he loved himself, and that mattered to him. That mattered more than Laura's happiness. To him, it's like, sure, he's protecting. He's saying that I'm protecting you, I'm whatever. And he's in reality, he's protecting himself, right? So Waldo had a narcissistic love for himself. I don't know how to spell narcissistic. So I think that's one of the big things about it, right? And you can have your own opinion. That's perfectly fine, And maybe the director or writer is someone more, more versed in the art of cinema and storytelling, might have a better, maybe they drew a better conclusion or whatever. But this is what I think would be like a good sort of a good kind of signal that's the kind of love that she had, right? Because one thing that we may be able to agree on, that I believe, is that there are various kinds of loves, not always good, because you have people like Waldo who will kill for love, and the love that Waldo had was clearly not a good one. So let's go back to some other stuff. So that's it. I think that's one of the big points, right? Let's see. I also wrote down Anne is the aunt of Laura, right? So Anne, um, so she was very close to Carpenter, and I'm pretty sure they were having an affair. Like, I mean, just by the end of the film, it's like they were 100% having an affair, and Laura was just like, "Ooh, whatever," and she was just still gonna marry Carpenter. Waldo didn't like Will Carpenter because, you know, it's just an individual who's below, not Laura's standards, but below his own standards, right? Anybody that's sub, and here's the thing, going back to that Waldo loves Laura in a narcissistic way, nobody would have ever been good enough for Laura. It doesn't matter, because Waldo clearly sees everyone that isn't himself, that isn't exactly as who he is, less than him. So the only perfect match for Laura would have been Waldo. Like, she would have never been able, never been able to be with anyone, because Waldo would always find a flaw in them and be like, nope, not good enough, nope, not good enough, nope, not good enough. So that, like, I can see how the story would have always ended in Waldo either committing murder or doing something terrible. So no one would have ever been good enough. No one would have ever been good enough for Laura. In Waldo's eyes, right? Because all others are beneath him, right? All others are he looks at everyone with you know, an air of not the word dominance, superiority. Yeah, he looks at everyone else that isn't him, aside from Laura, as beneath him. Laura was unsure of marriage, and so she was unsure of the marriage, apparently, according to Waldo, and then because of the relationship and whatnot that Carpenter was having with Diane. And then you have what was it? She was unsure of the marriage, and then later on she's trying to protect Carpenter, right? So later on she's trying to protect Carpenter, so she's like, okay, yes, we're gonna get married. So she's trying to find a way to protect him. I think Laura, like, she likes him, but kind of maybe feels a little bit bad for him. And he's a womanizer. Like, he was with Diane, he was with Anne. Like, clearly not good, right? Now this is something I paused the movie on. Waldo writes with the goose quill dipped in venom. That's just some, like, evil villain shit, right? Like no normal human being, no good, quote unquote, good individual writes with a goose quill dipped in venom. That's some psycho shit, man. So I like, props to the writers, whoever came up with that, you know. Goose quill dipped in venom. Oh, Waldo and Laura met when she was 22 years old. I don't know how long they've been friends, how long he was grooming her to be just like him. But she was 22 years old, so I'm assuming she's older, right? Because she had to, like, grow in her company, become an executive, do all this stuff, accumulate all this wealth. You know, because she went from being a stenographer to owning a house in the country, owning this apartment, having a car. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, and being, of course, being an executive. Waldo and Laura. Oh, I wrote down Waldo and Laura are ambitious souls. Right. Oh, right. Because Waldo taught everything, groomed her to high society standard, jealous of Jacoby, wrote a mean article on Jacoby. Yeah, like, he became obsessed with that, right? Like, when he found out that, I think his name was Jacoby. when he found out that Jacoby and Laura were seeing each other, he immediately was like, I went home, I got in my bathtub. Like, okay, so here's another psycho shit. Get in my bathtub, write this evil fucking column, you know, probably using venom for the letters that he writes with his typewriter as well. So that's that. Let's see. Yeah, so Jacoby was living off of money from an estate, I think, that he had sold or was taken over. Oh, and then here's there's one part that like really showed kind of like that's showing more and more of Waldo's colors. Was like, oh, you're probably just a sharecropper, right? So he just saw a sharecropper as someone less than when he called Jacoby, Carpenter, a sharecropper. We're seeing Carpenter as beneath him for being a sharecropper. Not good enough, right? Not good enough to associate with Laura. But Carpenter was accused of stealing jewels and trying to cash checks that bounced. They called them rubber checks. That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. I like that term, rubber checks. Let's see. Yeah, so they were caught at dinner. Carpenter and Anne were caught at having dinner after what's her face? After Laura was like, no, and then she went to go see Waldo. Bessie, super loyal to Laura, could say she was religious, and easiest way I could put that was, I think she used some of the phrase like God or something, and she had her cross, so there was that. Cheap bottle. There's a cheap bottle of whiskey or some, I can't remember what it was. There's a cheap bottle of something, right? That Diane would have bought because Laura doesn't drink the cheap stuff. Detective has Detective Mark Pearson had a silver shin bone. I really didn't catch it in the beginning. So in the beginning, Waldo was like, "Are you the detective with who had a shootout with this gangster?" And he said something about silver, and I wasn't sure what that meant until much later on, when he's like, when Waldo was like, "Oh, you have that silver shin bone." So I thought that was pretty neat. I wrote down Laura murdered Diane. So that was one theory that went south. I think at one point I assumed that it was Waldo. I don't remember when I did, but I assumed that it was her because he's clearly jealous. I was assuming that it was Waldo who murdered Laura because he was jealous, but then there was the switcheroo. There's a shotgun over the fireplace, and later on, a shotgun is used. I said Chekhov's gun. I think I said that. There's a lot of mention. It's like, oh, I came up because I saw the light on, right? There's this constant. There's like three times it's mentioned. They're like, I was walking down the street and I saw the light on, so I went up to her apartment and rang the bell. So there's a lot of that. Okay, so like at some point, right? And I paused to talk about this earlier. At some point, Detective Mark Pearson. Oh shit. At some point, he fell in love with Laura. I have no idea at what point it was, right? I'm not sure if it was because he saw the portrait, right? Because the synopsis that I had read was like he saw the portrait and he fell in love, right? So there was nothing to show that he had fallen in love. And then it wasn't until like he later on he went to the apartment, and he was like walking around with the letters, just like moving around and touching everything and smelling her perfume and seeing her clothes. And he was just like, because I had mentioned like the music crescendoed, and then it went down, and then as he was going around, the music kept on kind of going. It was a little intense, and he was drinking his fucking whiskey all angry. And then he had a conversation with Waldo, and Waldo was like, "Yeah, you love her because you bid on her painting." There was like at no point that I see that change in that character or that shift, right? He goes from being at like the entire time he's this detective and he's out here to solve this crime. He's questioning these people and he's brilliant. And it's not up until that point where it's mentioned, but like, you love her, don't you? He's like, oh, he gets like all like flustered. I don't know why. I don't know. That's the imitation I'm making because I can't remember the words, right? So he gets all flustered and he like kicks Waldo out or whatever, and he sits down, and then Laura's there, but I don't know at what point, right? And I think it's, and then later, much later down the film, Laura starts to fall in love with Detective McPherson, right? So I don't know where it, even with her, I don't know at what point was that change, right? Not until her aunt Anne was like, "Oh, you should be with McPherson. He's much better for you." Like he's just some rando. Like the detective is he's literally just some rando who just walked into her life, and he's investigating her. And the aunt is like, "You should be with McPherson," because she's like, "He's better for you," or whatever. And she's talking about like, oh, Anne is talking about how compatible she is with Carpenter, right? Like Anne, and they say the aunt Anne, and she's talking about how compatible she is with Carpenter. Like, here's why we're compatible, right? But she didn't really. I don't think she did that, unless I missed it. But I don't think she did that. Here's the compatibilities that you and the detective have, right? It would make more sense for Anne. It would make more sense for her to compare Laura and Waldo, right? Laura and Waldo have those similarities only because Waldo he put those similarities onto her, right? So I'm not entirely sure, like, if that conversation was like, oh, maybe I should be with him, right? Because after that, because even that, she's just like always annoyed by him. And it isn't until, where is it? It isn't until they go to the interrogation room and the Detective Mark, I'm just gonna say Mark. Detective Mark is interrogating Laura, and it's not until there where Detective Mark gets really close to her, right? Because he shines the light, turns off the light, he's walking around, he sits on the table on her side, and he gets like real close, and then she gets like real close, and they're kind of like getting real close. And it's like, that's the first kind of glimpse where they're giving each other, I think I said they're giving each other googly eyes, right? I was like, oh, is that like, that's the only part where I'm like, oh, she is falling in love with him. And that's also, I think maybe that would have been the only part where I saw that Detective Mark was also like in love with her, right? Aside from when Waldo pointed out that he was bidding on the picture, on the painting, and he was flustered. But it was hard for me to pick up on what cues or what dialogue or what scenes there were that pointed towards Mark falling in love and towards Laura falling in love. Very few, one or two maybe. I was very confused. Moving on to the next point. I was very confused because there's this whole thing where it's like they don't say how Diane was killed, right? In the beginning, they're just like Laura was killed with the 12 with a shotgun using buckshot, right? So that's all they give you. I, as the viewer, assume the shotgun blast went into the chest, right? So, boom, into the chest. You have the body. So everybody, and then there's like the maid. They're like the maid recognized her, right? And then it was the aunt Anne recognized her. And I think who was it? I think they said that Carpenter recognized her as well, but I'm not entirely sure. But Laura was identified, like the body was identified. So throughout the whole film, I'm like, okay, she's dead. And then when she's alive, I'm like, okay, then she's not dead. It's probably Diane, right? And later it's proved that it's Diane. But at some point they mentioned that that Diane was shot in the face with the shotgun, right? So hey, that's never mentioned. Like it's never mentioned until the like I think halfway through the movie, or a little bit more than halfway through the movie. It's never mentioned. So I can't decide on whether it was clever to omit that information or not, right? Because by omitting that information, then they omit the information and then make the viewer believe like, oh, okay, the body was identified, it's Laura, right? But then later they're like, yeah, she got blasted in the face. We're like, well, how was she identified? How did the maid identify her, right? How did how did Anne identify her? It's not until like later on in the autopsy that those performing the autopsy are able to deduce that it's Diane who was killed. So there was a lot of that confusion, right? For me. So I can't decide if that was clever or a cheap way. It sounds bad, but like it's clever or a cheap way to trick the viewers, right? Right? Is it clever or cheap? Right? You don't sell us. You have characters who say they identify the body. So you make the viewer think, okay, yeah. But then later on you're like, yeah, they blasted her in the face. I'm like, how could they identify the body? Especially with the maid who like loved her and like knew everything about her. You would imagine, and she was dressed in, sure she was dressed in what's her face's clothes, but I don't know. That's the only thing that I didn't really like. Maybe it's not that I didn't like, but I can't decide on what it was, on whether it was cheap or clever to do. But you guys can decide. You guys can let me know in the comments of this video. You can let me know on Twitter if you like. This is my Twitter handle is over here. Or you can let me know here on Patreon. But yeah, I mean, we gotta give it a rating, right? I don't have a rating system. I don't have a rating system for movies. I would say an out of 10 system, right? An out of 10 system would be good. Oh boy. I mean, it was good. It was entertaining. I did like it. I was getting annoyed with the characters alongside the detective, right? You said it was broken, and well, I got it fixed. There's a lot of stuff like that, right? It was like they said they went to your cottage, but no one was there. Oh, that day I went on a long walk. I'm like, oh, okay. How are you gonna forget that, right? If you went on a long walk, you go on a long weekend, 3 days, and you go on a long walk that's hours. That's not something you're not gonna be like, yeah, I didn't leave the house. That's not something you like forget. And then she's like, the radio was broken when I was there. And then it's like, I went to your apartment and the radio wasn't broken. He's like, oh, well, I actually called somebody to fix it. I'm like, those aren't things that you forget, right? You have to sit there, you have to call, hey, can I have somebody to come out to my country house and fix this radio, right? And then hang up, and then somebody comes, and then they have to sit there and they have to fix it and have to send it off, right? And when would it have been? Sunday? Would it have been Friday? What day would it have been? Because the cops arrived on Saturday, but she wasn't there because she was for an hours-long walk. Did the radio repairman go on a Saturday? Was it ever even broken? I don't think it was broken. I think she lied about it. I think that like was proven. Anyways, I think I think it was good. I liked it. I felt like there's just the things that like I love what they did with the Waldo and Laura thing. Like because of that, I really like it. But there was things like there's a thing with like the face, with like the body was identified but not so much. I don't know at what point Detective Mark fell in love. I kind of know at what point Laura fell in love. Sure, they kiss in the end, great. And I think that was kind of. I mean, those are like the three big things, right? I don't know. Yeah. When they fall in love. Being killed. I think those are like my only. Oh, and like the whole long weekend going on a renting. I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna give it a rating system. Here's how I'm gonna do it. Did I like it or did I not like it? And the answer is, yeah, I liked it. A few gripes here and there, right? But I enjoyed the film. It was good. I liked the characters. A bunch of rich assholes. Poor woman got killed. So, yeah, no, I liked it. So did I like it or did I not like it? I liked it. That's how I'm rating this. Because to give it stars, I don't. It's not a good way for me to rate things. It's not a good way for me personally to be able. I'm not able to rate things in like 1 to 10 stars or 1 to 5 stars. It's just, did I like it or did I like it? I liked it. So that's what we're gonna do. I liked it. Well, I mean that's all I got. Took a few pages of notes, just front, no backside. I don't think I missed anything. Didn't show. The kiss at the end, of course. Homie died. Got blasted. Yeah, I don't think I've missed anything else. Early on, they mentioned the clocks, and the clocks were often in frame, especially in Laura's apartment. So, as soon as he looked at the clock, I was like, oh, hidden compartment, right? Okay. You know, it would make sense. Yeah, Laura. Yeah, I wrote down how Laura murdered by buckshot close range. Never said to the face or anything. I just assumed it was to the body. Well, I think that's it, folks. I got nothing else. Thank you. If you've been watching this long, thank you for watching. Thank you for, once again, thank you for your support here on Patreon. For those of you who have access to these film reactions and reviews, I'll make sure to let everyone know when the next film reaction, it's not really a review, it's a discussion. When the next film reaction and discussion will be. I'm gonna focus a lot on older movies. There's a lot of films I've never watched. A lot of older movies that just, you know, aren't things that I watch that you just find on Netflix or this at the video department store. I was gonna say Blockbuster. But I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys, and I also hope that for those of you who like cinema, who like, you know, films, that these older films will be good for you. Good for you in a way where it's like you're getting exposed to this older stuff that you probably weren't exposed to before, or have never been exposed to. So I hope this is good for you as it is for me. So until next time, folks, thank you for watching. If you don't follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, go ahead and do that. You have the banner down here. I have this banner because I'm also putting this on, I might be putting this on YouTube. I haven't decided yet, but you know, this banner so that honestly, it's to fill up the screen. I felt the screen kind of empty. The screen felt kind of empty, so I decided to put the banner here to kind of add some space. I hope you guys enjoyed the film. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Please, I'm sure you'll be able to leave comments on this video post. Let me know what you think. You can let me know what you think on Twitter as well. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. And let me know what you think about the whole Waldo's narcissistic love for Laura is, because that's one part of the film that I really loved, and I love to hear what everybody else has to say. So thank you, folks, for watching, and until next time, you have a wonderful time, and thank you. So goodbye.